The Kremlin's attacks are inflicting an ever-increasing toll on civilians there. Hundreds, if not thousands, of Ukrainians have been killed, many more wounded, as have citizens of other countries. More than 1 million refugees have fled Ukraine to neighboring countries. Millions of people across Ukraine are trapped in increasingly dire conditions as Russia destroys more critical infrastructure. For example, Mariupol's mayor says that most of the besieged city's residents are living without water, without electricity, without heat. Bridges to the city have been destroyed. Women, children, growing ranks of wounded civilians cannot get out. Food and medical supplies cannot get in. The mayor wrote today, and I quote, "We are simply being destroyed." The world has seen Russia use these grisly tactics before, in Syria, in Chechnya. Meanwhile, Russia's reckless operation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant risked a catastrophe, a nuclear incident. The Kremlin should immediately cease all attacks around Ukrainian nuclear facilities and allow civilian personnel to do their work to ensure the facility's safety and security, as both the IAEA Director General and a resolution adopted yesterday by the agency's Board of Governors have called on Russia to do.
Overnight, we saw the Russians attack this nuclear power plant last night. The U.S. Embassy in Kyiv noted on Twitter, it is a war crime to attack a nuclear power plant. Putin's shelling of Europe's largest nuclear plant takes his reign of terror one step further. So just to be clear, is it now the position of the U.S. government that Putin has engaged in war crimes?
Well, we have an internal review that's been ongoing prior to last night to collect evidence and data of the targeting of civilians, of the reported use of horrific weapons of war on the ground in Ukraine. That's an ongoing process. We have not made conclusions. It's a legal review and a process that goes through the administration. What I will say is that the intentional targeting of civilians or civilian objects would be considered a war crime, even as we are assessing that. Regardless of the legality, this action was the height of irresponsibility. The Kremlin must cease operations around nuclear infrastructure, and we have, of course, remaining concerns. I would note that just on the in the developments that have happened overnight as it relates to the nuclear power plant, I mean, obviously the Russian government's actions were extremely reckless and dangerous. They could have posed a profound threat to the safety of civilians in the region and beyond. We do applaud the ability of the Ukrainian operators to keep all 6 reactors in safe conditions while under attack, and to report as they were able to the nuclear regulator, which certainly was helpful. As you know, last night the president not only spoke with President Zelensky, he also spoke last night to the head of the National Nuclear Security Administration for an update on the situation at the plant. So that is a piece of positive news for the moment. But we remain concerned, of course, about the fact that they have clearly taken control of the plants, or it appears so. The Russian military has. The best step for nuclear safety would be for Russia to immediately withdraw its forces around the facility.
We've now seen this really sort of broad range of bipartisan support behind this legislation to ban Russian oil imports. The Speaker has said she's all for banning Russian oil. I guess first, just what is your stance on the Senate bill, and is this something that the president would sign?
Well, I think as we talked about a little bit yesterday, how the president has been approaching any of the steps we've taken as it relates to Russia and the actions of Russia and holding President Putin accountable is to take every step to the maximum impact that will impact President Putin, the Russian economy. I mean, the stock market has been closed now for the longest time in history. Russia is in a full-blown financial crisis. According to JP Morgan analysts, there will be a collapse in the Russian GDP. So clearly those actions are working. We will have one of his principles from the beginning has been to do that in a unified way, in a coordinated way, because we are stronger if we are together as we work with the Europeans. The third principle, or another principle, I'm not sure what number I'm on right now, has been to, while we're maximizing the impact, to minimize it on the American people, on the global markets, on and certainly we are mindful as we look at all of these options of making sure we're not having that impact. So we want to maintain, as Dr. Rouse said, a steady global supply of energy with whatever actions we take. The reason why we are seeing volatility in the global oil markets, the reason why the price of gas is going up, is not because of steps the president has taken. They are because President Putin is invading Ukraine, and that is creating a great deal of instability in the global marketplace. So what we are trying to do, and what the president is focused on doing, is taking every step we can to mitigate the impact of that. Obviously, he announced the release of more oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, did that in a coordinated way. We have a range of options on the table we are considering. But where we are at in this moment is certainly we are taking steps to stand up for democracy versus autocracy, stand up to the actions of a brutal dictator. But it is because of his actions that we are in this circumstance.
Senator Lindsey Graham said last night that someone ought to assassinate President Putin. Does the White House have any take on that statement? Is it helpful at this point?
That is not the position of the United States government, and certainly not a statement you'd hear come from the mouth of anybody working in this administration.